Okay, hello everyone. So pleased to be back here in Istanbul, right? Who was there last year on our previous presentation? Okay, so I have some fans coming back, great. I work for Nixxis, so as a very nice presenter said, I'm Luc Francis Jacobs, I'm the CEO of Nixxis. Nixxis is a company which is developing, delivering, supporting, and hopefully also pleasing the industry with contact center solutions. And our objective is very simple. Try to give your customer the ultimate experience. That's why we exist. That's why everybody at Nixxis is working so hard. Okay? Our real customers, though, are these guys. Okay? She is our real customer. How many call center agents is there in the audience? No call center? Okay. Nobody has ever been as a contact center agent? Yeah, a few of you. Who is now in charge of production, who has been a contact center agent? Okay? You need to get there. You can't say you're going to make decisions for contact center agents without having been at the place where you took the phone and answered the customer. Do that. I tried this for 3 months, I quit. It's too hard, I can't take it. I was yelling at every customer that was calling me. Okay? It's really a hard job, and my promise to her, the promise of our company to that girl, is that we will never replace her with a robot. We will try to make her life easier. Okay? Because we think that the human touch makes such a difference. Now the question is that up to now, most of the technologies which have been made available for those contact center agents have made their lives somehow more easy, but in the end didn't really make a big difference. Okay? It's still pretty much the contact center of the 60s, even if they are using computers. So, of course, we've been confronted to this trendy wave of artificial intelligence, and there are a number of famous people who have said a bit of everything about that. Yeah? This guy, you know who he is? He's the boss of Tesla. He's also trying to send people to Mars, and he's also trying to bore a lot of big holes into the ground. But he's also saying some crazy stuff like AI is more dangerous than nuclears. Okay? By the way, we might see nuclears coming back because the Americans want to get it back. But maybe not after the last night. This guy, he's dead, unfortunately, but he also says this could be the end of mankind. So you should all be like shaking in your seats asking what is going to happen with me if AI takes over the world. And then you have this guy, okay, he's the famous creator of the Apple II with Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, saying that he used to agree with Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking, but now he doesn't anymore. Okay? In the end, what brings them all together is this. Okay? The guy says it's more dangerous than nukes, still he puts his money, 650 million investment into Neuralink, trying to make people smarter. All right? So you can see a little bit this very strange area, because a lot of people talk about artificial intelligence without really knowing what it is. Actually, the question is, what is really artificial intelligence? Are there any artificial intelligence experts in the room? Okay, good. So I'm not an expert either, but as a contact center company supplier, I'm trying to understand, can it really make the life of our agents easier and smarter and better, okay? And I've been trying, so like the last 2 to 3 years, when the bubble came back again, to understand what is artificial intelligence. And I realized, actually, there is nothing artificial about it. Artificial is the wrong word. It's what is called actually machine intelligence. And it will come back on that later, but it's actually trying to do human-like automatism. Okay? I'll come back to that. What is artificial intelligence? If you look at this video, you might understand this. How this starts, a bit of luck. Yeah. This is a machine which has basically 2 degrees of freedom. It can move the chariot left or right. Okay, that's an experiment which is about 10 years old now. And it has an algorithm that is trying to move the chariot in a way that it will keep the stick at a vertical position. So the idea is that it will simply do what all the kids are doing, trying to keep the stick vertical from your finger. Okay? It's only doing it according to 2 levels of freedom. Let's see what happens. This is like the 3rd or the 4th trial. The system is learning all the time. Now we have the trial 83. See what's happening. They didn't really get there. 180, that's about 2 days of work. See, it starts to work, it starts to understand that if you move the chariot in a certain way, you're getting there. It's getting better and better. That's artificial intelligence. That's machine intelligence, right? Now a human is going to try to move this. Did you get it? So this machine has an objective, keep the stick vertical. It has some degree of freedom and is now obsessed into trying to do this. This is what is called actually reinforced learning. I'll come back on that later. But it's a way for the machine to learn to do this. Now, if you compare this to human intelligence, what does it look like? You notice? Who has babies here? Oops, it's getting there. Oh, sorry, failed. Okay? 8 months old. It's not my son, fortunately. This is now 9 months. It's getting better. 10 to 11 months. Okay, now we're going to start to walk a little bit. What he's doing, by the way, the kids, if you don't realize, he's basically doing 2 things. First of all, looking at mommy and also at himself and says, this is how you walk. Now I can start learning about it. The process is very similar to what you just saw with the stick, right? He's basically saying that I need to coordinate my muscles, I need to make sure that my legs are strong enough, I need to exercise on them, and then I need to find my balance. And he started to walk. The big difference is that the stick took about 1.5 to 2 days for this to succeed after 280, 290 trials. This little guy took about 1.5 years. Okay? So one thing which is differentiating the learning process between humans and machine is the speed of learning. Of course, the machine can only do the stick stuff. In the meantime, he maybe has started to say papa and mama, he started to drink and eat, so he has learned a lot of different things. And what happened in his brain, he has a brain with neurons. Everybody understand what is a neuron? Yeah? And he has started to make connections to understand how it works, this thing of walking. I'm a human being, so I should be able to do the same as mama and papa sitting on my 2 legs. Okay? If you actually look at the human brain, it's a complicated but also a rather simple machine. The human brain, okay, this piece of neuron that we have for the last 30 to 40,000 years, is getting some electrochemicals excitement from the outside world, okay, through your 5 senses. Taste, sight, touch, smell, and sound. It's very simple. Okay, we get this inside the system, including balance, which is part of the sound. And actually what it does, it simply sends also electrochemical orders to muscles and organs. That's how it works. And in the meantime, when it has objectives like starting to walk or even just standing on my 2 feet, the only thing it will do, it will make the connections between the different neurons inside the system to understand how it works. Simple, isn't it? It's not very complicated. Now, the big difference is that this machine has about 100 billion neurons and about 100 trillion synapses. Synapses is the name for the connections between the neurons. Okay? And this is the evolution of about like a few 100,000 years that get us there from the fish, whatever, the mouses and up to here. Okay? Now, if you look at biochemical neurons, it's fairly simple, right? So it has a cell, a nucleus, and then it has synapses connecting to others. And people, actually scientists, realize that what is important is not so many neurons you have, but is the amount of connections you have between the neurons. That makes a difference. And actually, what is called today artificial intelligence is a rather old science. What do you think, what is the age of artificial intelligence? What do you think? How old is it? Like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Have a guess. Sorry? 40. Yeah, it's actually about 60 years old. It started all in the 40s, 50s. The first machine from Alan Turing, trying to understand Enigma, the Nazis machine, started there. And then in 58, you had a guy which has this very interesting, it was called perceptrons, is a network of neurons. He's trying to recreate with switches, in 58, no computers available, the situation of how it was working in the brain. And actually those algorithms that we are using today, they're not very young, they're pretty old. It only makes a difference when you use it from an algorithm perspective, is that all the new artificial, what is sold to you today as this is artificial intelligence, is actually a pretty old technology, and it's simply using an algorithm to replace how a neuron is working. Okay? It's working exactly the same way. You have exits you have an output of the system, and you have inputs. And in between, you have what is called the nonlinear functions. And that function is connected to other neurons into that numerical brain. It's quite simple. It's no rocket science. Even if you only went through basic primary school, you can understand this. And they simply copied the working of the biological neuron into mathematical formula. Okay? I won't make you any AI expert today, but this is basically how it works. By the way, if you want to have the presentations PDF, you can do this. Just jump in our stand at the end of the presentation and we'll be able to send it to you. So this is how it works. This is the little neurons from an algorithmic perspective. Now, the big difference in the last 3 to 5 years is that we have so much computing power available and data that allows us to train that neuron much better than what used to be like 10 to 20 years ago. Okay? Actually, it is said that AI was born in the late 50s, early 60s. Then it went through what is called an AI winter, and then back to AI summer, and then an AI winter. Why? Because expert systems in the 90s were big failures. We didn't have enough computing power. So today what they do is rather simple. They simply copy this, and we get that. This is actually what is called a deep learning structure. How does it work is rather simple also. Remember this little neuron we had on the previous slide? Okay? They simply organize them in layers, just like you do in the brain. So we have a number of internal hidden layers that you don't see. You have a certain amount of different stages that you could get. Okay? And then you have, of course, the input layer and the output layer. It's not more complicated than this. So you can understand it. You can even tonight go back home and explain it to your children, how it works. It will look very interesting. Now, the big difference today is that the models that started again back in 2012, 2013 had, which is called AlexNet, I'll come back on that, the models had about 650,000 neurons. Now, remember, the human brain has 100 billion. So the new model that came back behind that is like 651 million neurons, which were organized in different layers. And then we tried to see, these are interesting machines, because it can not only get an input and then get an output, it can also learn, because the big secret, of course, of deep learning is to be able to influence all the parameters of this nonlinear function for each neuron in a way that is automatic. And how do you do this? It's very simple. You put some input, and what comes out of it is wrong. And you say to the computer, no, that's not the right answer, that's the wrong answer. This is the right answer. And then the system back propagates parameters through all those layers of neurons in order to understand what it should be next time, when you put the next identical type of stimulation. Get this? And this is actually the secret of deep learning. As the name says it, it's learning out of its mistakes. So you give it some inputs, you get some outputs, and then you try to correct it. So one thing which this model is very capable of, and we'll come back on that, is also to do what is called pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is, I think, one of the main applications of deep learning. Now, if you go to this, what do we have on the screen here? Who can answer? What do we have on the screen? Yes. So, human brains, your brains, are actually wired to recognize patterns in a very efficient way. Of course, there is no dog there, it's clouds. Okay? But it has the shape of a dog, so automatically your brain at first reaction would say, oh, that's a dog. No, these are just clouds. In the shape of a dog, in the pattern of a dog, do you think it's a dog? Okay? So this, I want you, this little gameplay on your brain, this is number one. Number two is this. What do you see there? Yeah, okay, let's get some imagination. I like girls to answer this question. What do you see, girls, in this picture? Sorry? Two ladies. Yeah. Do you see the true African ladies preparing some food for their children with a butterfly? Don't you see that? Right? So your brains are actually used to do that. do pattern recognitions. Very quickly, you can associate stuff. You say, oh, these are like two ladies. I'm just imagining that they are preparing food for the African, it looks like African ladies doing some preparation. Actually, these are just stains of paints, but this is like a brainwave. Something a bit different. You know that one, right? This is very old. This is like more than 100 years old. Who can see the old lady in there? Who can see the young lady in there? Okay? The same patterns with two significations. Then your brain is a bit puzzled. You don't know if you have to jump between the young lady and the old ladies. Actually, this is just a drawing. If you really look at it very carefully, it doesn't represent anything, but actually it represents two things. Again, you have basically been able to train your mind in order to get pattern recognition there. And then this last one I think is really great. Everybody knows this. It's been circulating on Facebook. Who could read the first sentence? Yeah? Actually, most of the vowel on that message has been replaced by numbers. You might have a difficulty for the first sentence, right? This message serves to prove all minds can do amazing things. But once you start reading the second patterns, it's quite easy. And actually, if tomorrow I would ask you, can you write in that kind of shape, you could do it. Okay? Again, the brain, your brain is very, very well connected in order to recognize patterns, shapes, and to really make the kind of translation between them. And that's exactly because deep learning and the actual version of artificial intelligence is only representing what is happening in your brain, is very good at this. Image recognition and other stuff. Okay? So we'll stop with that little silly game. And the way it works is very simple. If you would say that this digital brain, you would consider it as a black box. Of course, it's a black box, which is digital. That means it can only get digits in and digit out. That's the only thing it can do. Do we agree? We haven't found any other way today to talk with computers through digits. Some kind of numerical words. Okay? But then if you digitize the input by replacing it with patterns that we know, I guess you realize that text, if I write something in Turkish now and you read it, it's just a pattern, it's just forms and shapes that you recognize being part of the language and that you are able to associate with, this is the meaning. We have a common meaning because we wrote the same for sound, music, okay, harmony. Any musicians in the room? Okay, a few musicians, good. Nobody understands, there is no logic for what sounds harmonious in music. It's only logic to the human ear. There is no logic from a really pure mathematical formula between the different notes of the music scale. Voice, music itself, image, movies. These are all patterns. These are all things that you see, that you feel, that you recognize. And so this machine, if you bring this into digital form into this machine, let's say it's spitting out also not only bits and bytes, but also other types of patterns. You might say, what is this guy trying to tell us? So this machine is able to absorb bits and bytes, which are the numeric version of existing patterns, I understand, shapes, and is only able to spit out bits and bytes, which are actually patterns of something else. Let's take an example. What would you have if you take a machine like this, and you take text, get into that machine, and come out of it with other text? What do you have? Yes? Yeah, absolutely. Google Translate. I don't know if you guys are users of Google Translate, but they started to add neuronal networks to Google Translate about 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. And since then, the improvement has been incredible. Okay? Google Translate, when it launched it 5 to 6 years ago, was quite clunky. It was just a keyword recognition stuff, trying to translate into another sentence. But then they use neuronal network. That means the translation is getting better. The more you ask translation, the more better it gets. So text to text, you have a very simple Google Translate machine. Okay? What about voice to text? What do you get then? Yes, the very standard speech text algorithms that some of you might use. They might come from NICE or whatever other guys. We had a very good company in Belgium doing that, by the way. That the NICE bought back. But let's say speech to text, this is just like taking words into human voice and translating into text. The other way around could be also, I'm getting text out there and I'm getting voice out. That means I'm basically having text-to-speech. Okay? Very simple. Now, the algorithms which are now produced are getting further and further. And I would like to show you one of the latest. There are two really exciting algorithms that I've seen running in, which is the last generation, less than 6 months old. It's images to images. What does it do? It's very simple. Everybody understands what is JPEG, what is like a compression algorithm, okay, trying to compress picture. So JPEG is an algorithm trying to take an image and make it more compressed, still without losing too much of the information. There are now algorithms which allow to do what is called neuronal compression. That means the image is getting to the system. The system not only tries to compress, but try to understand what is in the image. And it gets out a file that is about 1/10 of the version of JPEG 2000, which is one of the highest compression algorithms. And the quality is not lost. Because it's not only what is in the picture, but it's the meaning of what is in the picture. So when you need to go back to the original picture, it's much easier. And now what I'm going to show you in the next video, take a good look at this. It's movie to movie. So we feed the model with some input video, which is just a dancer doing some movement, okay? And then we have two people you will see next to the dancer, which are basically, it's the Everybody Dance video for some of you that might know it. Those two models have simply been, I would say, modelized by the computer. The computer looked at them and see how they move. And the computer is going to transform the image that you see, the movie that you see of those two guys dancing on that original choreography without having any of them doing any kind of dancing. Look at this. So you know the original video? They are just calibrating the system. This is the original video. This is the detection from the system. And these guys that you see dancing there have never made a movement ever in their life. Okay? It's quite impressive when you look at it. So these images are simply computer results. We have a fan of that music in the room, that's good. We took some funnier videos. Okay, this is a ballet dancer. They are now calibrating the machine. Look what's going to happen. So they can make you a ballet dancer overnight, right? Actually in 5 minutes. You calibrate the machine, they make you dance. So if you think about this, think about what kind of manipulation on videos could happen, right? I could take a picture of you and I could put you in any situation tomorrow, even a movie, showing it to your wife or your husband, and you might have some problems at home. Okay? This is about like the most advanced level of image to image and movie to movie type of things. So if you ask this from a contact center perspective, where can we use this kind of pattern learning and pattern recognition type of feature that we have now into AI, okay? So I'm going to cut the crap about the marketing bullshit that people might give you about this. I said, where can I really use this? Where are there patterns in my contact center which I can use this machine to make my life easier, okay? The first thing that we realized are simply conversations. Now, if I would be, I don't understand Turkish, but if I would be listening to one of your agents talking to one of your Turkish customers in Turkish, I wouldn't be able to understand, but I would be able to tell you, by using my human intelligence, that I think this conversation is going the right way, or this conversation is going the wrong way. Why? Because I don't understand the words, but I kind of sense or feel if people are happy, if they are laughing, if they are, like, say, if this conversation is going right, okay? And that is something quite interesting, because you don't need to understand, you simply need to follow the pattern. A good conversation most of the time goes around the same pattern. You get this? A bad conversation also goes around the same pattern. Okay? You can see all these things like, macroaggression, validation, respect, macroassault. So this is like, it's emotional detection, but goes a bit further than that. Also understand what it does. So conversation, are they spoken or are they written? AI could be used at that level. That's, I would say, number one. Then number two, of course, it's sales automation. This is not new, so I guess some of you might still be using, if you're from a telecom company, a finance bank company, or any other e-commerce companies, you are using already marketing automation. Sales and marketing automation today is basically using a combination of media and is trying to basically understand how people are buying. Now, we might be very complicated human beings, we might have a lot of neurons in our heads, 100 billion, still it seems that the way we purchase is always the same. Two companies are very strong at this, Amazon and Starbucks. So Starbucks, for example, has today a segmentation of their customer base, 700 million worldwide, into 400,000 segments. Okay? So they use machine intelligence to be able to understand how people are buying. In other words, what are the buttons I need to push into your little mind, Mr. Human, in order to make sure that you're buying? It might be bringing you a certain message at the right time, through the right media, to the right person. Okay? So in sales and marketing automation, it can be used, of course, if you put aside what we call marketing automation using digital media, and you simply, I would say, use your guys on the phone trying to sell, trying to get an appointment, try to get money back, try to sell a subscription to some of your customers, the machine could basically understand, this guy, when he's doing this, or this girl, when he's doing this, he sells better. Understanding this, we could simply use AI to transfer that best practice from one person to 100 others. Imagine this. Take your best sales guy in your contact center and make sure that his practice are spread, not with 100% success, but let's say 90% success through the rest of your contact center immediately. This is a technology that we at Nixxis are working on. Okay? To understand what is good into a conversation, how it can be successful, and how we can propagate this to other people inside your contact center, but maybe also outside of your contact center. That means in other contact centers worldwide, if you're part of a big group. So we work on this with companies like AXA in France, and of course they are present in 130 countries. So whatever is done successfully in another country, they can test if it can be, if there isn't any kind of cultural barrier being complete in another country, and then propagate in the whole network. Okay? Sales automation. Quality control. I guess most of you, if you produce contact center interaction, customer interactions, you need to have some kind of quality control at the end of the conversation, right? So there is normally a very boring quality control sheet that has to be filled by one of your quality supervisor that has to say, did he make or she make the presentation well? Yes, introduction was good, blah, blah, blah. And all of this, most of the time running on Excel. You do this by sampling your conversation, and you do this by basically taking that in a very manual form. Imagine that those quality control sheets would be filled in automatically using AI. Even better than this, you say to the machine, give me, without taking into account the disposition from the agent, give me the 10 best conversations of today. And the system will be able to tell you, these are, according to me, master, the 10 best conversations. Okay? If you say, no, these are not the 10 best ones, this is a wrong one, this is the right one, the machine would learn from it. And next time you ask the 10 ones, it would get better. This is where you can use artificial intelligence. Security. I guess everybody understands, and yesterday there was a very good debate about digitalization. The fact that all of your personal data, including your social profiles, including your bank accounts, including your emails, including your love life, everything is getting digital, right? Google actually is the best person placed to tell you if you cheat on your wife or on your boyfriend. They know this. They just look at your emails, look at your SMSs on Google phones. They make sure that I had a conversation, a presentation last year was about that. Okay? But security is really important. So one thing which is sure, if everything is secure, if everything is going right, most of the time the pattern which is produced is always the same. And since this machine that we have is very good at detecting out of pattern behaviors, it would be able to detect, I don't say it's a security breach, but once something happens which is not according to the usual patterns, it could detect it. It's used a lot right now in IP networks, right? If you are basically victims of an attack by one way or another, the system can simply say, there is something happening there which is not normal. You could go a step deeper. You could look at the personal data, the credit cards, numbers of your customers, the personal data of your customers, your own data that you might lose to a competitor. So in security, AI can be a very good, I would call this secret agent, okay, just working for you. And then there is one last place where I really think that pattern recognition can be used, /AI. It's into product and service usage. Well, I have a number of customers into the telecom sector and the finance sector, and I'm always amazed to see that those guys come back to us and they consider the contact center as a little island lost somewhere into the middle of the ocean. Okay? I'm sorry to say this, but it seems that the contact center is trying to take shite on the input and trying to make the best at the output. Okay? It doesn't work that way anymore. Telecom sector has understood this since a long time, because telecom sector is looking at how you are using your SIM cards, what kind of calls you're doing, and in the telecom sector, any telecom operators here? No? Okay. They can predict when you're going to churn. In the telecom sector, just by looking at how you use your SIM cards, they can understand that this guy is trying to call different places, he has called the contact center quite a lot the last time and so on. It looks like he might be leaving us soon. So what they do, before you leave, they call you and they say, you know, sir, if you sign another 24 more contracts with us, we'd be able to offer you a free iPhone or whatever kind of thing like that. You try to keep you on board. Okay? You can do the same. I think your contact center operation, which is just a small part, an important part, but a small part of the whole value chain, should be integrated with how your customers are using your service. If you're a financial institution, since today most of you are using mobile applications or PC banking and these kind of things, it's very easy to measure how a customer is using the system. You can also predict that he is going to leave you. If you're in e-commerce, the same thing. Okay? Whatever is digital can be measured. So taking care of measuring product and service usage using AI models allows you to do your contact center preventive instead of doing curative, okay, when it's too late, when the guy is already lost, when he has already signed and gone somewhere else. Okay? If you have any questions, we'll take them at the end. Now, concerning contact center voice conversation, we need to be very clear. It's true that today, the new models, and I guess some of you might, did you see the Google Duplex demo? Anybody has seen Google Duplex? You know this girl which is calling for an appointment from a hairdresser or from, okay, you've seen Google Duplex? Today, the human level of speech recognition, word recognition, is around 5%. And the machine gets better. So, thanks to, you see, I would say in 2017, for English only, the machine got better. Now, what the machine can do is recognize the words. Actually, when I saw this, I was quite amazed to see that the human errors into word recognition was 5%. That's a lot. That's 1 out of 20 words that I'm saying that you don't understand. But because there is not only words where we have meanings, the machine is missing the history, the topic, the context, the emotion, and the visual. So I tend to say that words is only the visible tip of the iceberg. Yeah? The rest of the meaning of what I'm trying to get to you is on the slides. It is also, I would say, below the surface of water. So what it says here is that, yes, for word recognition, the system is better. So if you want to do keyword detection, blah, 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 yes, it's possible. Even if you want to have a very basic chatbot working on this, yes, it's possible. It might get better in word recognition if you train the model well. I doubt that very quickly any model existing today, including the latest deep learning models, are going to be able to understand what is history, topic, context, emotions, visual, without being trained like a human being. And the problem in artificial intelligence is not so much of having the system available or even its price, but the time it takes to teach the model. You need a lot of data, you need a lot of computing power, and for each of those customers, you can imagine that the history is a bit different. Okay? Your agents, when they see a customer complain and they see the customer records, they read 1 or 2 sentences that was written by their colleagues who got the guy on the phone previously. Through those 3 or 4 sentences, they understand things that even the most powerful machines today do not understand. It's because they are humans and they have their own, or they have 25 years of training behind them, okay, with 100 billion neurons. which is a bit difficult for machines today. So that is important. So I'm trying to say that here that chatbot, okay, not artificial intelligence at all, just being able to do keyword detection. A little bit of artificial intelligence for quality measurement, okay. But then to have real conversation with robots, we are still like 10 to 15 years away from that. This is a chart which shows you since the beginning of the real beginning of artificial intelligence in 2013 with AlexNet, the 600,000 neurons type of models, down to the model AlphaGo 0 that you see there at the top in 2018. So that's the model who has beaten Lee Sedol at the game of Go, okay? You know, the Singaporean guy, Korean guy. And the thing is that since the beginning in 2013, the computing power has increased by more than 300,000. So we've been able to increase what is called the petaflop, so the amount of operations we can get through the system through those agendas. Okay. Still, there are some very big doubts today through scientists that this could get any better. The reason is that, okay, the model gets more powerful, but the precision at which these models predict what is going to happen compared to the original model of 2013 is only a few % better. So it seems we are coming to a glass ceiling of the present artificial intelligence capabilities. Okay? That means that deep learning, the way I've shown it to you, the way it's now being computed by systems, might not be in the end such a magic that we were thinking about. There might be something else also happening in order to get there. Okay? And I'm going to show you, and finish soon on this presentation with this kind of comparison. If I take a fly, everybody understand what is a fly? It has about 100,000 neurons and 10 million connections between them. Very basic stuff. Then we have AlexNet, 650,000 and 60 million connections. A mouse has about 100 million connections and 100 billion of synapses, connections between them. It is about like 1,000 synapses per neuron. And the human being is about 100 billion and 100 trillion synapses. Okay? So you can see that the models that we have, the mathematical models we have, is still far away from the human being. But if I want today, and this is quite interesting, to recreate on computers the same mathematical model of a human brain, it's quite simple. It's the equivalent of 10,000 CPUs, from Amazon, and I can get those CPUs for about 1,000 euros an hour. Of course, if I need to train that models with the 25 to 30 years of experience that you guys are basically having today, it would cost me a lot of money, because I need to do 35 years times $1,000 an hour. But eventually, the new GPUs, so the general processing unit from NVIDIA, have now a capability of 1,000 CPUs when it comes to neural networks. So I only need to use 10 GPUs and it would cost me only 30 euros an hour, $30 an hour on the CPU. So we're getting there. As the processing power is increasing, the algorithms of deep learning are getting more and more complicated, more and more neurons. The question is more, do I have enough data? And can I train these models in a way which is intelligent? I would finish with this. Do you know what this is? Any idea? Anybody has seen that painting before? No? This is a painting actually that was created about 1 month ago through an artificial intelligence. So they fed into, this is an image-to-image model. They fed into an artificial intelligence all the paintings from the 16th and 17th century, all into this model. And then they asked the system, please make me a painting. And this is what came out of it. Okay? It seems, we don't know if it's a boy or it's a girl, but it's basically something that is kind of creating, and the algorithm is the signature here. Okay? It kind of creates some emotions, and it was sold $432,000 at Christie's about 1 month ago. Okay? A machine-created painting. Purely machine-created painting. But now we have to compare it with this. Do you know what this is? Okay, this is Salvador Mundi. It's one of the latest painting from, we think, Leonardo da Vinci that was found and sold last year, 2017. And it was sold for $450 million. About 1,000 times the value of the AI art I just showed you. So my conclusion to this is very simple, is that yes, AI is coming. It's the technology that you might consider in order to help your operations, But still today, even compared to a guy coming from the 15th century, human beings are about 1,000 times still more powerful than machine today. Okay? Thank you. I would end up with 2 slides. We know that in a few days, it will be the 10th November 2018. It's 80 years that one of the most, I think, representative statesmen in the world has left us. And there is actually a Belgian newspaper that came up with this very nice sentence saying that it's the only statement that has served these people in that order of magnitude in such a short time. Yeah? And I really believe that. Really believe that. I think this guy was quite crazy. And as we out of Belgium really support Turkey, I would like to propose you this. So we basically, in order to help you, spending your last budget for the rest of the year, we give you like a special discount until end of this year for the next 3 months. Thank you very much. Thank you.